and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, wait a second, let me turn my cell phone on. That's what I forgot to do.
He has a cell phone.
He has just become so 21st century, it's almost scary.
First up in the 18th century.
No, he just has the technology. He hasn't become...
Hey, knock it off.
Anybody can buy that stuff.
That's right.
Okay, the following consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without further discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested member of the public may request that any item on the consent agenda be removed for further discussion prior to the board's taking action. Does any board member wish to pull any item on the consent agenda?
Item 9.
Okay, and the chair would like to pull items 5, 6, 7, and 8.
God dang.
They're the code compliance. I had a pen when I came in. Did you pull my pen?
Chair?
I believe item 10, Humane Society wants to make a comment.
Item 10 is what?
That's the position control list.
Wait a minute, you handed me a new, are we talking off the new agenda or the old agenda?
Item 10?
This number
Okay, you want to pull that? Both?
Yes.
You're pulling that?
Yes.
Good.
So we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10?
9 and 10. Okay, chairs, any members of the public wish to pull any item on the consent agenda? Other than those that have been pulled. Seeing none, the chair is open for a motion on the balance of the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion by Supervisor Tofanelli. I have a second by Supervisor Walensky. Do I have further board discussion? All in favor, so indicate by stating aye. Aye. Opposed. Passes on a 4-0, 1 absent vote of the Board of Supervisors. I'm going to read 5, 6, 7, and 8 in all at one time so we can just go through them. 5 is a minute order upholding code compliance administrative citation number 10-17. 6 is a minute order upholding code compliance administrative citation 11-08. 7 is the citation 10-21, and 8 is citation 11-22. So we have Jeff here. Let me... The first one is... excuse me. Five. And you didn't state in here how much the citation, what was the others, a couple of them you said 5,000, 2 of them you didn't state an amount.
Yes, sir. We're looking at these, it's kind of some house cleaning stuff. There's a couple of different outcomes on some of these, 3 of these cases today. For instance, on 1017, the citation was issued. There originally was a fine assessed at $7,000. In this particular case, after the fine was assessed, after the administrative citation was issued, they actually did not appeal it, but they called and said they would come into compliance within 30 days. The fine was then excused, and the administrative costs alone are going to be assessed when this is done.
And how much is that?
It's going to be approximately $475 on this one.
Okay, so this one is $475?
That's an approximate amount. I'd have to total it up. There was 381 at the time the citation was issued. It's been a couple hours. Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're down to $475.
Right around there, sir.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go on 10 to number 6. And on this one, you basically say the administrative fine is $5,000.
Yes.
That just seems high to me. I mean, if what we did is inspect the property and send out some letters, how do we get up to $5,000 in cost? And why is this $5,000 and the previous one $475?
Okay. There's a difference between the administrative costs and a fine. There are administrative costs also on this. The administrative costs...
Well, there's a fine in here too?
Yes, on this particular one.
Because you say up here... recovery of administrative costs, administrative fines. Okay.
Yes.
And abatement costs. We did the abatement?
We have not had to do the abatement as of this date, but that is still a possibility in the future that abatement would occur. In this particular case, and the reason there's a difference is the citation was issued. He was given an additional opportunity to come into compliance, basically obtain building permits and get the inspections on the construction that he had done. He wrote a letter back admitting that he did actually commit the violations and refusing to get a permit or refusing to get inspections. So he just refused to do it. So in this particular case, he did not come into compliance. That's why the fine has not been excused.
Okay. And you've given him plenty of time to come into compliance?
Yes, sir. We started with this last October,
okay,
if I recall this correctly. The citation wasn't issued until March. And basically, the owner of the property has told building inspectors to get off his property. He's told us to stay off his property. He has just not been cooperative at all.
Okay, that's fine. I understand that one. Okay, let's go to 7 then.
Okay. Then we're going to go on 7.
This one I didn't see an amount either, although...
No, I'm going to give you an approximate.
Okay, just an approximate. Because the fine amount...
Yeah, now, you have to understand on this one, the fine's going to be excused on this one, because he finally did come into compliance, get his plans in, and final the inspections after the administrative citation. The administrative costs, I have to understand, this one's gone on for about 3 or 4 years now.
Okay.
The administrative costs here are going to be right around $950 would be my...
$950?
Right around that, yes.
Okay. Okay, that's much better. Okay. I was thinking these administrative costs were all basically $5,000.
No.
Okay, and then on the last one, now this one you're showing the administrative fine, I'm assuming of $5,000, and I'm assuming when you say administrative fine of $5,000, that includes administrative costs.
It'll be, the fine is $5,000, the administrative costs are going to end up being approximately $500 on this. In this particular case, they still have not contacted us. They are refusing. They refuse certified mail, posted the property, just can't get a response from them.
Okay, and you're sure you have the right box we're sending it to?
We absolutely do.
Do this.
There are indications that this home is going into foreclosure, but we do not have a recorded document
indicating. So they're giving it back to the bank and they've just walked?
They've walked, basically.
Okay, and all of this is put on the property tax roll as a collection item. So if you give it back to the bank, it just goes with the property.
Yes, it does. It does. Okay. And we have tried to contact. We don't have an actual lender name. We have tried to contact the servicing company in this case, which is Recon Trust Company, I believe. Okay.
So I mean, if you find out something's wrong, you can bring it back for adjustment.
Absolutely. Yes.
If we made a mistake on the notice or whatever.
You bet.
Okay, that's fine. Then the chair is open to the recommendations on the consent agenda for 5, 6, 7, and 8. Oh. Sure. Go ahead.
Al Segal, Cowboys Tractor Association. On item 6, could we find out what the nature of the offense was? In other words, if it was apparently a code violation.
Yeah, here, step aside, we'll fill you in.
Oh, this was a very large deck area that was basically completely torn down, structural members removed and then replaced, railings put back up, decking put back up, and the actual railing and the railing was actually not constructed to code when it was put back up. So it was a structural repair. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Chair is open for a motion then on 5, 6, 7, and 8 as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion by Supervisor Callaway. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Supervisor Walensky. Further board discussion. All in favor so indicate by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 4-0, 1 absent vote of the board. We'll move forward then to item 8. No, excuse me, item 9.
I pulled this item. I noticed that our airport manager was here, and this is something that she's been working on, and at no cost to the general fund, and I just thought you might like to toot the horn of the airport on this, and to tell us.
Thank you. Thanks, Marita. I'm Kathy Zancanella, airport manager for the last 22 years. It seems like we've been working on new hangars for that long, but actually it's only been about 7 years that we've worked on this. This is our last big hurrah at the airport. We have no more land available for hangars, so what I'd like to do today is just publicly thank the supervisors, county council, all of the departments that have been such a tremendous help. The San Andreas Fire Department, Don Young, have been such a help in helping us get through some little idiosyncrasies that show up on every project, I suppose, but it has been made quite simple, even though it took a long time in our case, and just I wanted to thank everyone for that.
Kathy, how many people do we have now on a waiting list after these people?
We have, the 22 new hangars are all occupied. We have 10 to 15 people, probably in that mix, 5 are serious. And we have a total hangars of 60 at the airport now, with the old ones and the new ones and all of this, and all are occupied.
Well, you've been working on this for a year. I just felt like you needed to.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to thank everyone publicly. Okay?
It's good to see you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Any other, excuse me?
No, I was just going to move this item.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Callaway. Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Walensky. Further board discussion? Any public discussion? We have a motion and a second before the board. All in favor so indicate by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote to the board. Move forward to item 10, a resolution authorizing changes to the position control list for fiscal year 2011-2012. Francine, are you, or Jeannie?
Yeah.
You gonna
I pulled this. I talked to Bob Seiler, the incoming president for the Humane Society, and he would like to make a comment to the board regarding the negotiations with regards to funding for this .49 FTE for animal services.
Good morning, all. I want to thank the board for their support, and I met with Sheriff Kuntz last week for about an hour and a half, and we took a tour of the shelter, and we came to an agreement on the contribution that the Humane Society will offer to the county to restore this position. We are contributing because it's not approved in the preliminary budget, but we're very hopeful it will be approved in the final budget, and that this position will continue to be funded. It would be nice if, in the budget process, we can get this contribution back, although it's not a condition. If you see, if it's not a condition. If you do find the money, we'd like to have it back. But we have a check here for the amount to fund the animal control position, and I don't see the sheriff here.
Why don't you leave it with the board? Oh, okay, there you go. Leave it with Eddie.
Board chair. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you, Bob. Eddie, we'd like that check to go to board travel expenses.
I made it out that dollar. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. That's so you can pay the taxes on it for it.
Okay, do we need to make an adjustment then to this item?
No, you do not. This just accepts the Humane Society's donation to fund a .49 FTE animal services.
Do we need a motion to that effect?
Yes, you need to adopt this resolution.
Oh, that's, okay, it's included in this resolution?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'll move item 10.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Supervisor Callaway, a second by Supervisor Tofanelli. Do I have further board discussion? All in favor so indicate by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes on a 4-0, 1 absent vote of the Board of Supervisors.
And thank you, Humane Society.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well done.
Considering the short amount of time, I I agree with Steve that you all really came through, and it's greatly appreciated. So, thank you.
Very good.
Is this coming from the thrift store funding?
Actually, it's coming from the general fund of the Humane Society.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We'll move forward then to our regular agenda. First up is our 9:10 a.m. item.
We have number 11.
Did somebody pull number 11?
No, but
No, that
this
passed.
wasn't, did we pass that?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, that was the
Oh,
balance
okay.
of the consent agenda, correct?
Yeah, so it's effective 30 days?
So effective 30 days from today, and next week, prior to this taking effect, in 3 weeks, I'm bringing a bunch of changes for Murphy's to the board. Okay, we'll move forward to our regular agenda items.
There's no donating, remember?
Could you control the noise at the Nugget though before you leave?
Hey, you're not going to stop me from making noise at the Nugget. Okay, regular agenda, public comments, 5 minutes per person. Comments shall be limited to the items of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. I'll also announce at this time, as we go through the remainder of the regular agenda, if there are going to be public comments, they will be limited to 3 minutes per person. So, public comments. Who would like to address the board this morning? Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gary Caldwell, Valley Springs. I read in a couple of newspapers that the board is spending approximately $750,000 on the new jail construction for solar heated hot water and solar energy to the jail, which I think is a great step that you're doing. And I also noted in the article that it's to be paid for in about 7 or 8 years. That's great. And I wanted to compliment the board, first of all, on including these features in the jail. I think that's a step forward. And certainly the 7 or 8 years is a lot better than when I discussed several months ago with the design team representative that was here. He was saying somewhere between 10 and 15 years he thought the recovery, but he was doing this off the top of his head, so I'm not holding him to it. But at any rate, that means that after 7 or 8 years, the county will be saving approximately $100,000 a year in energy costs, just put in your pocket, so to speak. And I love to see that. You've come to, I heard Supervisor Callaway mention 21st century. You come to the 21st century here. And I'd like to make another suggestion with regard to the jail. This is the costliest project Calaveras County's ever entered into, and probably will be the costliest project for years to come. My suggestion is that you have a webcam mounted that will film the progress of the jail construction, and so that your constituents who are paying off the $30 million bond can see how progress is taking place at the jail over the internet. The cost is minimal, I think, for a webcam nowadays. You can buy one for under $100, I think. I don't know what the installation cost would be, but somewhere installed where this would show the progress of the project, and as I say, the voters who voted for this can see how their money's being spent and how the progress is proceeding on the jail. The other thing I wanted to mention was with respect, and of course, you know, this is sort of hollow comments now with all the cake and the coffee and so forth over here, but and I was 2 weeks early. A couple of weeks ago, I congratulated Mr. Jones on his retirement, and I wanted to do that again at the correct time. And I appreciate his actions with respect to the board. He's been very cognizant of the board's welfare, and I can tell you that he's made every effort to keep you out of trouble, at least from my perspective, because I had a situation with Public Works where they would not let me see files in their office, and because of the involvement of Mr. Jones's office, I was able to look at the project files in Public Works before a suit was filed and to get them to comply with the Public Records Act. So he saved you some money there, I think. And of course, when he saves you money, he saves the taxpayers money, because you don't have any personal funds, I don't think, that's going to pay for your miscues. Well, that you want to pay for your miscues. Anyway, I wish him well in the future, and I'm glad to see that the board is saluting him on his departure.
Thank you, Gary.
And I'd like to thank Anita for making certain that Jim had a haircut prior to the reception.
Were we about leaving?
Al Segala, I'd also like to congratulate Jim on an excellent job, not only for defending the supervisors, but also the taxpayers, which is very important to us. And it'd be nice if we can talk him staying a little longer, because he's still got a lot of life in him, and he looks young, you know, so...
That's probably why he's leaving.
Well, there's still some left in him.
Then I'm bringing up now relates to CalPERS. Recently, the Union Democrat reported that the Tuolumne County Auditor Clerk Debbie Russell disclosed a $1.6 million bill that the Central Sierra Planning Council, who is trying to close its doors, has to come up with. And they're talking about having what they call a municipal bankruptcy. As I understand it, Calaveras County is a part of a joint powers agreement with that organization. So several questions come to mind. First one is there a liability for Calaveras County taxpayers on this $1.6 million? If they choose to go bankrupt, does that mean the employees that contributed their money to this system would lose their money, would lose their retirement? And then third question, of course, is why is this such a surprise? Why do governmental bodies not review what's happening with CalPERS? Now, this is true with our county as well. We don't look at what they're doing. And it's kind of like we're saying we're not responsible. However, what CalPERS does, especially when it does things that it makes risky investments that cost the taxpayers money, there's no accountability for that other than to lay people off or try to go back to the taxpayers to get more money. I think that there has to be a process established where that can be reviewed. If it's impossible to review what CalPERS is doing as it affects our liability, then the only alternative is to start the process of removing the county from CalPERS and set up a different system that you can control. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? If so, please come forward.
Good morning, Doug Evans with Kitchell.
Not a change order already.
Ed Bauer with Sheriff's Office.
As we mentioned last week, we were going to come and give you a brief report on the status of the project. And overall, the project, the first phase of the project, which is the KW Emerson contract, is moving along well. In the beginning of the contract, we had some rain, and it's delayed them a little bit. They're currently anticipated to be done by the end of the month. Currently, they have completed the water line, the sewer line, the storm drain, the rough grading. They're in the process of finalizing the electrical underground and the gas lines that go underground. Once that's done, then they will begin grading for the road, put the base down and do the concrete curbs and pave the road. We're anticipating that all to be done by the end of July. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't make that. We've been working very closely and watching the schedule, and I think overall KW Emerson is doing a good job.
So you're saying the road will be paved and completed by the end of July also?
The part of the road that is in their contract, yes.
Okay.
Which is the intersection of the new road and a little spur that goes up to the court's property, and then the section that goes to the east around to the entrance to the jail and sheriff's office, and then the part that goes around to the back. we needed to get that done. Well, that's the work that they needed to do in order to get ready for the second contract, which was awarded last week to Flintco. With regard to the contract, the original contract was approximately $850,000. To date, $42,000 in change orders has been approved. They have been paid about $538,000 as of the end of June. That's about 60% complete. And so they're moving forward. With regard to the time delays, the change order that was approved had 37 calendar days of extension, which puts the completion, as I mentioned, at the end of the month. There was a transfer yesterday of electrical service. We moved the transformer that was previously providing power to the, Marita's smiling, providing power to the animal shelter, and I guess they had a little issue, but they worked through it, and it's going fine now. So they've got power to the new animal services location and to the animal shelter. With regard to the other contract, which is the Flintco contract, the board awarded that, as I mentioned, I'm sure you're aware of, last week. We've been working with Flintco. We got the contract to them, had discussions with them yesterday with regard to getting that signed and back to us. The real key to that is the notice to proceed that we're looking for, and we're trying to get the approvals from the Corps of Engineers. We've been in close contact with the Corps with regard to answering questions and getting them information. I'm hoping that that's going to move forward expeditiously. U.S. Fish and Wildlife was out last Thursday, did a site tour. They were a little surprised at the small size of elderberry bushes 4 and 5. They were almost embarrassed by that, but they felt they didn't express any concerns with regard to an approval. There's two types of approvals. One's called a consult, where they actually have to have a meeting and sit down with the Corps. They were thinking they could do it as a procedural item and not even have a consult. So it depends on the Corps' position, and they'll have some discussions and figure that out. Regional Water Quality Control Board is scheduled to be on site on the 26th for a tour. So things are moving along. I wish I could give you a date and say this is when those permits will be issued, but I just can't. I don't know, but we're doing everything we can to keep that moving along. If anyone is interested in seeing what we're doing up there, Kitchell has it's the job site trailer that's set up for the project, and if anyone wants to schedule a tour, give us a call. We'd love to walk you around and show you what we're doing.
And then, I just want to add operationally for the animal services and the move, it's actually turned out to be better than it previously was, where it was located, closer to the shelter now. So operationally, it's working real well. Humane Society worked real hard, and we got a new dog trail in, moved the kennel, they redesigned it. It's working real well. And, if you do come up and do site tours, make sure you stop by there and look at their trail that they put in. It's a lot better. Any questions?
Questions of the board? Questions of the public? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Any other public comments? If so, please come forward.
I'm Will Moore, Rancho Calaveras, and in response to a scholarly lecture we had on constitutional law here last week, I'd like to point out that the Constitution says in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, excises, and to pay debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, excises shall be uniform throughout the United States.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? If so, please come forward.
Yes, we're all entitled to our own opinion, but we're not entitled to our own facts.
I don't know, I disagree with it. My name is Ray Rancho Calaveras. I'd like to express two concerns, and a number of us went to see our state representative last week, and I'd like to see if you folks can do something, maybe help out. One of them is I have a total resentment of the new $150 per residence for California fire districts. and I believe our county...
CAL FIRE.
CAL FIRE, okay, that $150. It's not going to improve anything, and it's going to basically, it's just an indirect way of taxes that they don't have the population to pass it, so they're going around with the taxpayers. That's one thing I like to express, and hopefully some people will express their opinion also to the representative. The other one is that something coming down a chain that concerns me, especially since we have a whole bunch of volunteers who's willing to put their time and money as far as gas to like CSA 1 and CSAs in general, and plus all these organizations that volunteer to help out the county and help out the citizens. And that is the intention to charge people tax on per miles they drive. Now I can see that that's one way to make money, but it will have a substantial effect on all these volunteers we have in the county who do good work. So if you have a chance, hopefully you can express your disappointment and disagreement with such taxes. As a matter of fact, I noticed in the general plan that you wanted to keep track of miles for people. I know electric cars don't pay any money to gas tax, to road maintenance. So the only way to get around that is charge people how many miles they drive. And that could have a substantial amount of consequences to all the volunteers. Thank you. See
Thank you.
that bad.
Any other public comments? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, that close out public comments. Bring it back to the board for no, we have a recess. We will reconvene at 9:45. Thank you. Tofanelli must be selling because the market's going down. Reconvene the board, please, for our 9:45 a.m. item 13. This is a resolution recognizing years of service for Jim Jones. So I have it here, but I think we should pass it before I read it, because like Nancy Pelosi said, we'll never know what's in it until we pass it. So I'll entertain.
Funny you know what Nancy Pelosi said.
You know, here they're doing deficit negotiations. I don't know why they're negotiating with Obama. They should be negotiating with Pelosi, because Pelosi comes up and tells Obama, no, take that off the table, put this on the table. That's exactly what he does.
So
anyway, I'll entertain a motion.
Luckily, we have a supervisor in the White House knowing everything.
No more than Obama, which is sad. That's why the country's in the shape it's in.
Right, Tom.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the, whatever it is, resolution. Okay, I'll read it. I'll read it anyway. I'm going to go read it.
Apparently you don't need one.
Come on up, Jim. Come on up. Yeah, there is new politics. This is a nonpartisan office. That's from the board and staff for your wonderful years of service. That I have a resolution congratulating Jim Jones on his retirement. Whereas on March 1st, 2004, James C. Jones was appointed Delaware County Council. You haven't been here as long as I have. No. And there reminded us all to never allow to see, because he is not the Kool-Aid Jim Jones. That must be an in-house. And during his 7 years as county council, Jim courageously provided sound legal advice. At least some folks think it was sound. The Board of Supervisors, department heads, and the employees of Delaware County. Should we go back into some of the issues that we had in closed session? Sound legal advice? The board voted on your sound legal advice on 3-2 votes. Whereas Jeannie Boyd, CAO, congratulates Jim on his much-deserved retirement and thanks him for his advice, good humor, humor, and friendship, for sharing knowing looks and fits of laughter with all the knowing looks. Not least of all, for the magic 8 ball she will continue to console all the right answers. Whereas Lynn Norfolk, retired treasurer tax collector, sends best wishes for a great retirement to Jim, an associate and friend who has always brought out the best in those around him, despite the fact that he was also quite capable of bringing out the worst in Lynn as a friend. And whereas Brian Moss, Environmental Management Agency Administrator and Director of Environmental Health Air Pollution Control Officer, man, he should get a raise for all that. Notice how his title is much longer than Jim's. Ladies and gentlemen, always delivered sound advice, occasionally with a sense of humor. And whereas Lon Hamburger, I like that, counsel for Central Sierra Child Support and sometime borrower of the suit coat hanging in Jim's office, reminds us that Jim punched into an A class in the National Sporting Clays Association during his participation in the Zone 7 Championship at Ben Avery Shooting Center in Phoenix, Arizona in 2011. I thought that was the co-shooting. Unfortunately, Jim's shooting circuit wins are not enough to fund his retirement, but that didn't stop him from retiring anyway. Whereas the attorneys in his office believe that Jim provided an excellent environment in which to grow as a lawyer, while also keeping service attorneys supplied with silly strings, some of which still decorates the office people. And will receive a bill cleaned to their office. Whereas the attorneys and paralegals in his office love working with Jim and are going to miss him every day, while being insanely jealous of the fact that he got to retire and they did not. And you're retiring while Cal Hurst is still solvent. Whereas Jim will also be remembered for his service on the grand jury and as a volunteer deputy for the sheriff's office. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors that they reluctantly let Jim go and congratulate him on his retirement and wish him the best. Potentially pass and accomplished by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Calaveras, State of California, this 12th day of July, 2011. Congratulations. Don't say so much that I can't get the resolution passed. Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you, all of you who came out this morning. The job of the county council is the most interesting job we'll ever figure out. I think it's been a wonderful time to be here. There's so many really lifelong friends. County government has terrific people working for it. No matter what I've heard in public comments at times, people who work here are the best. So I'm very grateful. Thank you. That completes.
No, it doesn't.
What?
Wait, we have board comments?
Oh, go ahead. Board comments and public comments? Okay. Board comments.
Jim?
Is it serious?
I just want to comment on the resolution that we haven't yet passed, if that's possible.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank you for the time that you spent with us. There's some adjectives that come to mind. You certainly handled the job with professional aplomb, despite all the surroundings. You've been dignified and steadfast in your efforts to make sure that the board and the county in general stays within the limits of law. And actually, you've been unflappable in public. I can't imagine you being flappable, but if you are, you've certainly kept it out of our sight. And under the level of duress and provocation, a lesser man would certainly have cracked and run much sooner than this. Thank you for everything you've done. It's really been a pleasure to work with you.
Other board comments?
Jim? Although I've only been here for 2.5 years, we've never seen eye to eye. Although I want to thank you very much for being a friend We've been much more than just county council to myself, and I speak for the board too. I think you've also been a very good friend. And I want to say that it's not too late. Being a friend, I've checked around, and I found that Marita has friends who knows friends that can get your job back. They also live in Jackson.
So Amador's a possibility too.
That's good. So I want to thank you for your years of service. You've done an outstanding job. And even though Tom messed up the Kool-Aid Man thing, you did a wonderful job while I was grand jury foreman and the years I served on the grand jury as far as leading them down the right path. So thank you very much for your years of service.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.
He killed 900 people.
I guess it's a little known fact that I encouraged Gary, to run for the Board of Supervisors years ago.
That's a good thing you're leaving.
He's never forgiven me since.
This is true.
Any other board comments?
The never forgiving part.
Any public comments? If so, please come forward.
Well, I just...
Okay, I'll bring it back to the board.
Thank you. I told Janice, in taking this position, she'll not just be an attorney for the board, she'll be counsel, because we're always going to be going in talking about something or grousing or seeking advice for a constituent or for an association we're involved in. And Jim's door was always open to us, whatever it is individually. We would go in and talk to him, and he'd nod, and you'd always feel better leaving, even if he didn't say anything. And Jim let his attorneys be attorneys, and he took the politics of being county council. And I'm sure his staff appreciated that. And Janice, it's now your turn.
Janice,
I really thank Jim for all the advice and help and the ear he's given on the many times I've just been in his office. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. So
Thank you, Maria.
I personally, professionally, thank you.
Any other comments by anybody?
Janice, you've got to keep your suit hanging on the door for Ron Hamburgers.
So
Okay,
do you want a motion?
that completes the comments. I'll entertain a motion now for passing a resolution on item 13.
Mr. Chair, I reluctantly move this item.
Do I have a second?
Dies for lack of a second.
Now we're in constitutional crisis.
You can't second, Jim.
Did you want to step down, Tom, and make a second?
Okay, I'll step down and I'll second the motion. And I'll just give my own comments. I think you did an outstanding job as county councils during some very difficult and critical legal issues and times for the county. I think you'll be missed, and I thank you for all that you brought.
Thank you, Tom.
So I will second the motion. I have a motion then by Supervisor Tofinelli, and
Well, wait a
second.
minute, you stepped down, so
Yeah.
like...
Well,
You guys
he can't be chair and make the motion, so
You made
I
the
can step
motion.
down. There's a step down from chair. I seconded the motion, so the second's by Tryon. Now I'm back as chair. Further discussion by the board. All in favor, so indicate by stating aye.
Janice is out the door already.
You're going the hard way, Jim.
All in favor, so indicate by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 4-0, 1 absent vote of the Board of Supervisors.
That was a hard one to get, Tom.
Jeez, you guys are tough on me. Okay, we'll move forward to item 14, a resolution of intention to approve an amendment to the contract between the Board of Administrations of CalPERS and the Board of Supervisors, County of Calaveras, on a CalPERS issues, and this is a human resource issue. We have Francine with us this morning. Francine, would you initiate the discussion, please?
Yes, good morning. During preliminary budget, the board approved moving forward with offering a partial service retirement to our employees. In order to do that, the process is, the first step is to approve the resolution of intent, and then after that, we have a 20-day waiting period, and then the board would have to introduce an ordinance. And after 30 days of the ordinance, then we would be able to offer it to employees and they can apply for the partial service retirement. The goal here was to really try to have in place by final budget, especially with all the uncertainty of the economy and with departments. This is a great program. It's good for both the employer and the employee. For the employer, the great thing is we get to retain experienced and seasoned employees on a reduced schedule. They can mentor other employees with their historical knowledge, and it can also provide savings to the department. For the employees, the ability to transition into retirement. A lot of employees would like to retire, but they're nervous. Some of them still want to work, and so this allows them to work at a reduced schedule, to draw partial retirement, and still be able to work and offer their expertise to the county. So with that, I'm asking the board to approve this item.
Okay, is there more discussion on this matter?
Just a question. Oh, go ahead.
Francine, if someone goes in and they work 70% of the time and there's 30%, can the department hire a part-time employee? If there's a body of work that needs done and somebody's retiring, it sort of goes to the 20%, 60%. I was a little confused on that.
Actually, those are CalPERS rules, and I didn't go into that in my presentation because I have it here. First off, if an employee is interested in doing the partial service retirement, they're going to need to talk to their department head. And the department head, one, has to be willing to reduce the schedule. And then the limits are they can't do it for any less than 20 or more than 60. Okay.
So that's their time.
That's correct.
Okay, but the work is still there. So could a department then have a part-time employee doing the balance of the work?
Can you backfill to, say they're doing 50%, can you have a .49 part-time?
You can. These employees here, if you read the rules, they are entitled to full benefits. So it will depend on what the percentage is and what the department has. If they have extra hire money, if they need the services and they want to hire somebody permanently part-time for 40%, 45%.
0.49 or less.
Or less. Yes.
Yeah, you can do that if they have the money. What you don't want to do is have two people there getting full benefits. It defeats the purpose of the program.
Sure.
So, but yeah, they do have the ability to do it. And the goal is there are employees that are interested in it that can bring these savings to the department and possibly either during final or for next budget allow the county the ability to save money in departments without having people go out the door.
Good. Any other questions?
I just had one. Have you had any? Have you been able to gauge the level of interest out there? Are you getting any inquiries, or are there?
We know of several departments that have employees that are interested, but I don't have an exact number yet. We discussed it at the department head meeting yesterday and let department heads know, but we won't get it out until we knew that the board was going to move forward with it. Do you want to put any false hopes out there? We've had a couple of stabs at retirement incentives, so.
I guess with the question I have, does this in any way increase the cost to the county for the position that's being addressed? In other words, we still have to pay the PERS for say it's the person's working 60%. We still have to pay the PERS on the 60%.
Everything's prorated based on the percentage.
We're still paying full-time medical and the whole benefit package, you said.
The health, yes, the medical benefits.
And then we have, and then if we brought in somebody 30%, for instance, to work, does the cost of that position then go up versus just having the person there as a full-time person?
It depends on the actual makeup and what the department has. It's a possibility. Obviously, if someone's going to reduce their time 60% and then the department wants to bring somebody on 40, right, it would have to be mapped out and costed out. I couldn't really answer it until I had the exact scenario. The goal here is to save money but keep the experience, not to everybody that takes this, if we build that back time up. You know, I don't necessarily know that it would save us money because of the way that it's made up, but everything is prorated.
I guess the big issue for me is, will it cost us money?
It doesn't cost money to do the contract amendment. CalPERS has optional benefits that you can go to. If any of them have an economic impact or are going to cost money, then you have to request an actuarial. And then they provide the actuarial, so that I would have to provide that to you to show you what that would mean for the cost for the county. The cost here for the county is how we deal with the people that do apply for it in that department, and what the department does with the time that's remaining, whatever that makeup of that percentage is.
Okay. The other issue I'm concerned about is, you're saying that this is done with the approval of the department head. Is that correct?
The employee has to address the issue first with the department head, that they would like to reduce their schedule, and the department head
has to approve of that?
Yes.
Okay. The problem I have is, you know, just as an example, we have 100 employees and 10 want to take this. Are we going to get in trouble because, you know, 6 department heads say okay and 4 department heads say no? I mean, do we have, usually with CalPERS, if you're going to do something, it has to be offered to the whole set that's in CalPERS. Mm-hmm. Can we basically, as CalPERS, I'm assuming CalPERS does because it's in front of us, but CalPERS is going to say that, oh, you can do 6, but you can't do the other 4 that request?
No, CalPERS has a booklet on partial service retirement, and we're going to go ahead and post it online. Yeah. But it's very, very clear that the employer has to agree to the work schedule, and then if the employer agrees to the reduced schedule, then the employee has the ability to apply for it, and there's an actual form that would go to HR, and we would go forward with it. But it's right in their guidelines. It gives the employer the ability to do that.
Okay, you say the employer, and I guess if that discretion is to the employer, in the, what is this, a resolution? Yeah, a resolution. Does it also say the Board of Supervisors has the discretion to approve or disapprove? Because if this came before me on the board, the first thing I would ask is there increased costs? I mean, that the cost of this position is a full-time, occupied by a full-time person, 100% person. With the partial retirement and then bringing in somebody part-time, does that increase the cost of that position over having it filled with a full-time person? Because if it did, then I would be pretty reluctant, I think, to, you know, depending on the circumstances, and every situation can be different. But if there was any substantial increase in cost, I would be very leery of proceeding with that. So one of the questions I would have is, does this require, I mean, if the department head says, fine, I support it, does it require the Board of Supervisors to approve it?
It does not.
I have a concern
so
with that.
If you're not for the program, then the very first step, as I said, is the board has to approve a resolution of intent to amend its contract. If you don't approve that, then we can't move forward with offering it to employees. But the guidelines here, I mean, I guess we could write in that if that was the board's desire, that the board would have to approve every single one, we could do that.
I don't want a department head to basically be
way.
increasing costs on personnel issues without the board or the CAO's office.
Well, the CAO's office would be involved with the department head.
Yeah, I just don't want to lose control of our personnel costs.
Right.
This program, from what I read, is a 5-year program?
It has some rules in it that if you, say you only reduced your time 30% the first year, you met the 20% threshold, every year you can actually increase that percentage, okay? But if you ever went back to work, you could not apply for it again after 5 years.
Well, my concern, piggybacking on what Tom was just saying, is over a period of time, you would have to keep track of what a department head is doing. When they had 3 years ago, somebody used this and now they're bringing on, because their workload's increased, they want to bring on a part-time, it may increase you'd have to keep going all the time and have somebody tracking this thing to see maybe 3 years down the line whether it did increase cost.
Well, the goal isn't to increase costs. The departments that are interested in the employees, nobody's looking to increase costs. I think the concern, and you have a real concern, is that everybody's so lowly staffed right now that if they did approve this for an employee, they'd be looking at how do they fill those services. I think it's a valid concern. I think most of the departments that we're looking at the reduction and then saving the additional money. That doesn't mean that they all would do that. It's definitely a concern, but we would be working with the department and the CAO's office. We do want all financial stuff.
Well, yeah, you would have, the department head would have to track it because you have budgeted employee costs for that position, and that position, you couldn't increase your cost above what's been budgeted for that position regardless of who's filling the work done by that position. You may have 2 people doing it. It could be you have an employee who's been here a long time that has lots of longevity, has been at E-step, and maybe you can backfill with an extra hire at A-step. But those 2 together, you absolutely, it requires some fiscal tracking to make sure you don't exceed those costs. You're right. Because if you can't have basically, I would be surprised if you could have 2 benefited positions
and save money
in one position and save money. I mean, I think that would be a rare occasion.
Because it is full benefits, no matter whatever percentage they go to. That is the CalPERS rule if you adopt this program.
Yeah, because we're paying full benefits, but we're not getting a full-time position. We're going to get a 70% position, which makes me immediately think that, well, wait a minute, somebody's sort of gotten an increase in compensation versus somebody that's working full-time and getting the same compensation package. Number one. Number 2 is I understand what's driving it today because we're making all these cuts. And geez, if somebody wants 70% time, fine, I can meet my 10% or 5% cut in doing this. My concern is times get better, and all of a sudden department need more people. Are you going to get more efficiency and productivity out of a full-time person occupying that position, working full-time, versus having somebody work 70% time and then somebody else come in for 30% time for this position? Are we going to lose productivity when times get better and we're looking to add people to the workforce rather than subtract them from the workforce? So I don't know. I mean, I guess are other jurisdictions using this? Have you checked with other jurisdictions? What do they think of this?
Yeah, there are other jurisdictions that are using it. The state started this a couple of years ago, and that's how they were able to save money. They didn't find that they were backfilling them, and other counties that have done it have not found that because of the full benefits. And remember, you only have to work 50% here at the county to get full benefits, so they're not getting anything extra in the benefit area with this. But
I mean, if a person wanted to, you could say, well, I just want to work 51% time, so I keep all of my benefits, and we backfill it for 49% with 0 benefits. I don't know. I mean, the whole thing seems to me that it would be very difficult to administer, particularly if one department head says no and most of the other department heads say yes. I guess legally we can do it. It seems to me that's just begging to have some kind of a grievance filed saying that we're not treating people equally, and hearing from the unions and what have you. But
Well, the rules again say that the employer has to agree to the workload reduction right in the CalPERS booklet. So I don't see any issues with a department head that, for whatever reason, is unable to reduce who's ever interested in it, that asks. If they can't accommodate that, then they have the ability to say that. It's just an additional benefit. It's not
good
a...
department heads, and then we have maybe not so good department heads. And, if you give it solely at the discretion of the department head, then I would be very worried about how this would get implemented and whether we would have a really consistent policy countywide. I think it either needs to be approved both by you and the CAO's office and or the Board of Supervisors, so we know we have a consistent policy that's being applied. I'm leery of just saying a department head may unilaterally decide whether to implement this. That leaves me very uncomfortable.
I think the department heads know their business. I know they know their budget. They're accountable in all the quarterly reports to the CAO's office. We don't tell employees when they can apply for retirement in general. This is
no,
just
but that's because they go into 100% retirement or they work. Once you start this partial retirement, I'm just not quite certain what opening this barn door does for us, where this goes.
Okay, well, you asked me to bring it forward, so as a cost-saving measure in preliminary budget, and so that we could try to have this by final to have some options for department heads if there had to be more cuts or mid-year layoffs. So it's up to you how you want to proceed.
Jeannie, where are you on this?
I think it gives us another tool to save money. I don't disagree that there are there's some fiscal tracking that must be done, and it will require some specific oversight and responsibility on the part of the department heads to make sure that they're staying within their budgeted limits.
And what do you do when two people in a department apply and one's granted it and one is not?
Yeah, I can see. I see your concern.
I don't quite see how we implement this in a fair and equitable manner without being, even if it's done in a fair and equitable manner, people can charge that it's biased, and that's pretty hard to defend against in certain, depending on how the thing came down.
So Francine, taking that example, I don't have an issue with one department head saying no and another saying yes. I think I'm supportive of this. So if you have a department head that says no to one employee and yes to the other, what are then the options for that employee that is told no? They could just retire full-time.
They could continue to work or retire full-time.
Full-time.
Yes.
So so people going into this would understand that they might or might not be given support for doing this.
Yes, and there are a lot of rules under this program. Again, I put the ones that I thought were the most important for the board. You have to be vested, you have to be of retirement age, but there also it is, if you retire before you're 59 and a half, then you have to pay all the taxes that you would for any other plan that you take your money out before that. It would have to meet all the criteria for it to work, but the employee would know, and just like all the other retirement types of options that we've looked at over the past several years, we make sure that we educate the employees that they understand, and there's always, the discretion is of the department head on how the services are provided and the work that they need done. So I think they're all valid concerns.
Mm-hmm. I can understand the risk that Tom's talking about, but we're cutting departments' time anyway, or departments are cutting the time of their staff from 100% to 80% or what have you. And I guess I have maybe better faith in the department heads that they understand what the benefit might be for their employees and what the ramifications would be if they're not somewhat consistent within their own department.
Well, another thing too is through the budget process, a lot of departments over the last 4 years have actually reduced their staff. So you have seen through meeting some of their reductions, their 10% or 17.5, have taken employees from full-time and brought them down to maybe 80% or 70%. So if somebody were to take a partial retirement, it doesn't mean they'll backfill it, but they may be able to do something with another employee that's now down to 50% to still get those services. So that's part of the thought process when this came about. How do we try to provide the services a little bit differently and allow those older employees that have wanted to retire, but not fully, but help their department out? So.
Other board comments? Gary, you had a comment?
I'll go after you.
I just have, how does this affect seniority when it comes to time of layoff? If you have somebody that's working 60% of the time, partially retired?
Their seniority is based on their time and their classification. So if they're still working 60% and retired the 40%, then their time is for the 60%. They still get time as long as they're in the paid service.
That's a logistic.
Yes, that's a logistic nightmare that you could be facing.
We have a lot of part-time employees, so as long as they're working, then they're still on board. There's no negative impact.
How does, because you agreed to this, there's got to be something, and I read this contract back here. Normally when a person retires, they can come back to work and work 960 hours, but yet 60% is 1,248 hours. So how does their disagreement circumvents the normality of somebody retiring fully and then coming back and working 960 hours?
No, under this program, by you approving this, those rules no longer apply to somebody that does a partial retirement. Because we would still be prorating their PERS and all their other benefits. The only thing they're guaranteed is the full health. So somebody that retires and goes back to work, you have those rules.
Somebody that retires full-time.
That still applies.
That still applies. Right. But for the people under this program, it's waived.
Right, but under the program we have existing with CalPERS now, 960 hours is basically a 0.49, somewhere around 0.47, 0.49 amount of work. So we could still offer some type of a program.
Are you talking about the people that are fully retiring?
Yes, fully retired.
No, CalPERS won't allow that, correct?
No.
Yeah.
No?
No, they still have that cap.
They still have their caps.
Okay.
The 960 and the 1,000 hours are really their rules.
Steve, you have comments?
Just a couple. I think that maybe we're emphasizing the potential downside issues, but there's also a number of things that are potentially beneficial to departments. One is you may have people who would otherwise retire, but we've had a high level of turnover recently, and so the organizational memory is beginning to exit the place. This is an opportunity to retain people who might otherwise go and save money at the same time. We could mishandle it and completely blow the budget, but that's true of almost every budget transaction, including layoffs that sometimes cost more than they benefited in certain departments. There's always got to be a cost-benefit analysis. The good part about this program, for us anyway, is that it is entirely at our discretion whether we exercise it or not. And that discretion, of course, has to be exercised in the same way that we do all our other discretionary moves, which has to be based on a non-discriminatory pattern. You can't retaliate against people. You can't discriminate based on protected classes within the workforce. But other than that, it has everything to do with our organizational priorities. And so where departments find this beneficial to their budget process, this is just one more tool. In some cases better than a layoff, in some cases better than an hours reduction. Both related to continued service of people with experience and budgetarily. So let's just apply it effectively and use existing programs that prorate benefits. It's not like this is a whole new
set of computer programs that have to be included. This just adds one new piece to an existing program, and I'm pretty sure that we're ready to handle it. I support this as an option, but not in all cases, and I would hope that come budget time that we'll see how the departments are exercising this, and it'll come before the board in that form.
Any other board comments? Any public comments?
Elsa Gallant, Taxpayer Association. Actually, I think that Francine ought to get a little award of some sort. This seems to be taxpayer friendly. Looking at it, it seems one of the most valuable things about our employees is not so much their bodies, though that's valuable too. It's their minds. And a person that's the institutional memory part of this is the important thing. When you have new people facing old problems but not knowing what the previous solutions were, the taxpayers can suffer a loss by having less efficiency and sometimes maybe even a catastrophe that could be avoided if there was more wisdom there. And so my thinking is that we're doing this to try to capture some wisdom that otherwise would be lost. And I see this not being done that often, and I think that the discretion about the value of that person's mind needs to control, not their sonority or anything else. And so if that's a form of discrimination, well, that discrimination needs to occur because the department head has to think about the efficiency of his department. Bringing back a partially retired person to help on unique things that he's facing could really be a great thing. Also, I agree with Tom's concerns about the complexity of this. I don't see any reason why the board could not cancel this program if it found that it wasn't working properly. So there's a check and a balance there. Anyway, taxpayers are really, we take our hats off to Francine this time.
Any other public comments?
Marty Crane, Valley Springs. I'd just like to say that I appreciate the conversation this morning and the discussions, and that I seem to recall the call for thinking outside the box and looking for solutions, and sounds like we have one before us here, and I appreciate that. One little thing I wanted to mention, I was just curious when it was mentioned that if you did this partial retirement, you couldn't come back to work, or something about retiring, coming back, and then not being able to do it again. I don't think I caught on to what that was exactly, but it just made me think that is this per department, because we're going to be maybe doing some cross-training in departments. Maybe people will be moving from department to department, so is this like a county-wide thing that will be tracked? I'm just curious about that. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Peter.
Race Rancho Calaveras. I keep hearing the savings for department and contract benefits and so on. I sure would like to see some, I guess it's, to me, I'm simple-minded, it's kind of complicated, but I would like to see how the taxpayers going to benefit for something like that. I believe that wouldn't, I don't know how complex it would be if they could, the department can come up with, Francine can come up with some couple of figures, black and white. If you want to work half-time and get the benefits, that's great. Or if you want to retire full-time, you can always have the option of coming back as a consultant or part-time whenever without all the extra additional cost. So I sure would like to see numbers on something like this before I would make up my mind, the pros and cons of different situations. And I think that's what you would appreciate also, because something like this could also open itself up like something I believe it's called double dipping. You're working and you're not working, but you're still getting it. So it would be nice to see the total numbers on the pros and cons, which way it could be set up. I believe we can start at 52 or up to 59 or so on. So how it would affect taxpayers overall. It might help the department, that's great. But how it's going to help the
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, close out public comments, bring the discussion back to the board. Any additional board discussion? Chair is open for a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Supervisor Walensky. Do I have a second?
I will second.
I have a second by Supervisor Tofinelli. Further board discussion. All in favor so indicate by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. It passes on a 3-1 vote of the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francine. Move forward then to item 15, review of correspondence reports and various matters of concern. Gary, we'll start with you.
I have nothing to bring before the board.
Marita.
I guess I have no concerns.
Jim's.
I attended the Central Sierra Economic Development and Sierra Planning Council meeting this past week.
Were you the only board rep there?
Till 11:30, just before the meeting ended. We have decided with the economic development one that we're going to put it under the umbrella of Larry Copa, Tuolumne County, in cooperation with Mariposa and Amador. And the Office for the Economic Development and Planning Council is closed. I have to truly thank Tuolumne County's council and auditor for stepping up to help through this very difficult transition. The money that for PERS that Al referred to is just a rough estimate. They have no idea what it is and how many people are involved. We have no idea of the impact to the joint powers, cities or counties on that agreement. The attorney for the Planning Council is or has already called a conference meeting with all the councils of the JPA agencies to work through what would be the possible exposure to the JPA agencies, and Jim can address if they've talked or not. So we don't know. There's some unanswered questions. We gave the auditor of Tuolumne County authority to spend up to $2,500 cap. It was a cap on closing bills for utilities and so forth. There is some exposure out there, and one of the options looked at was maybe municipal bankruptcy. Again, that's still just a discussion item among the respective attorneys, because there were 3 of us that had all gotten different informations from our respective councils. So the Planning Council has already written PERS to withdraw from PERS, and PERS requires at least a year's notice to get back to the Planning Council. So the Planning Council will stay in its current format until the issue with PERS and the financing and the liability to the respective cities and counties is resolved. Everybody seemed pretty comfortable with the changes to the Economic Development District. That will stay a district, because once you let go of it, it's way too difficult to form it again. Sean, did I miss anything? Did I capture it? That was okay, thank you. He was the press that was there. Oh, and one other thing. I was doing my mail for CSAT. I just wanted to give you all some information on AB 109 and 117. The things are changing quite quickly on that. Of course, you're familiar with 109. 117 is a trailer bill, which really is stating that when offenders are released from state detention, instead of going to state parole, to parole agents, they will come to the respective counties to, in essence, really go under the probation department. So instead of a parole agent, it's a probation officer. And then AB 118 discusses the funding for this, and that we have to establish, Jeannie, like what we call designated funds for the funding of it.
Accounts.
An account, and there's several accounts.
Sub-accounts.
And I know Jeannie's been keeping up on what's happening, but I just thought the board would, because the CDCR needs an answer by August 1 on how we're going to manage the program, 109. And and the fact that it does come under the Brown Act, which I thought that was an interesting comment, because it's statutorily formed. So if you all have any questions, you can ask me, you can ask Jeannie, you can, I'd recommend you go through Jeannie or maybe the chief probation officer. She's kept up on this quite closely. Okay, thank you, Tom. That's
okay.
One more thing. We don't have board next Tuesday. I'm not sure I can go, but USDA Calaveras Grown, Tom, is going to be on the 18th. That was the one you missed on the cattle with USDA where we met at the library. You had wanted to go.
Yes.
I think it's at...
in the afternoon.
Yeah, I want to say 11:30 or 12.
July 18th?
Yes.
What's the date today?
12. Also,
so next Monday.
I have, the 18th is a Monday. We have no board on Tuesday.
And what time and place?
It's at the library, I believe, San Andreas Library, and I believe it's at noon. Mary Mutz could probably confirm that.
And what was this on?
That was the one where USDA came in and they're trying to find venues for
conservation easements?
No, not just that. It's the marketing of beef and have a roving slaughterhouse. And looking at the old Budweiser plant as a place for cold storage. And then I have Calaveras Public Power Authority the week after. And the Wine Association is having their annual UC Davis event on the 22nd.
Who's that, the wine, Great Lives?
And then they had a dinner at roll around.
Do the tour and then
Right. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Tom.
Steve?
I'll be leaving tomorrow for the NACO convention. That's the National Association of County Organizations. I'll be at the Public Lands policy meeting on Friday and continue through the weekend on that. Back here...
You're approved.
And by the way, that will all be on my own funds. It will not be any county expenses.
That's good, because we don't have any
none.
you're not going to use your slush fund?
Well, use the Humane Society money.
Definitely, after 7 years, I have never been able to find my slush fund, even when apparently there was one. So, anyway, that'll be under my own funds. I will return for the Friends of the Library meeting in West Point on Tuesday the 19th, the ACCG meeting in McCullough Hill.
What's ACCGG?
The Annual Calaveras Consensus on the 20th. I'll attend the Park and Rec Commission meeting on Wednesday evening, the Fire Safe Council, and the Youth Center, Blue Mountain Coalition for Youth Center Board meeting, all of those on Wednesday evening.
Do you have a split personality where you send part of you to one meeting and the other part to another
I get on the first part of the agenda in the first one, the middle part of the agenda in the second, and the end of the agenda in the third. And then I have the Upper McCallum River Watershed Authority meeting on Friday the 22nd. The Community Covenant Church Habitat dedication of the West Point House on July 24th. The Family Support JPA in Bear Valley on the 25th.
Oh, that's right.
Which
I'll
I'm
be there
hoping
too.
Marita is going to be joining in that, and that completes.
That's at Bear?
That's at Bear.
The UMRA meeting on the 22nd, which I won't be able to make because I'll be out of town.
Party.
At Party, but prior to the regular meeting, there's IR Club.
Oh, when was that?
Seminar.
I didn't
It
get
starts
that.
I think it starts at 9.
Down at Party as well?
Yeah, same place, yeah.
All right, better put that in. Thank you.
Anything further, Steve?
That's it.
Okay, I have nothing to bring before the board today. Jim, will you please let the board know where you managed to get your hair cut?
I do have some items of concern.
Now pay attention.
All these years.
It's the first time since you've been county council.
He's been storing them up, and now we're
going to dump them on us.
I have. I take full advantage of this opportunity. First of all, the Central Sierra Planning Council issue that Marita mentioned is correct. The Tuolumne County Council's office, one of their lawyers, has sort of taken the lead on it, and she has put together a meeting later this week that of representatives of all the entities, the 4 counties, I think 3 cities, 3 or 4 cities. And so that meeting is later this week, and Janice and I will both participate in that. So that's all I know about it at this point.
Will we have board representation at that?
No, it's just
Just the attorneys, okay.
I want to acknowledge Jeannie Boyce. From my perspective as a bit of an insider, the recent budget hearing process that we went through was a difficult time for Jeannie. There was some name calling, unfounded name calling, and legally incorrect name calling, in my opinion. So I wanted to acknowledge that. I wanted to say that during my time of working with Jeannie, she has always, 100% of the time, been straightforward, a person of complete honesty, a person of absolute integrity, and the county and county government is very lucky to have her. I also have something to say about the 4 supervisors who are here.
Okay, let's move on. Mr. Chair, point of order.
That's out of order.
This is why one of us got the word.
Give us hell, Jim.
No, I've sat here for almost 8 years, listened to public comments. I've heard each one of you accused of a variety of vile things during that time, and it's not been easy to listen to. So again, from my perspective as an insider, I want to personally attest to the fact that each one of you is a completely honest person, that you, in spite of your differences, your spirited differences sometimes, that you care about each other, that you are very hardworking. You work full-time at a job that pays part-time. I know that because I frequently got emails from Marita on a Sunday. and I know you work very hard for the interests of your constituents. I can personally attest to all of that. It's been a great pleasure to work for you, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
That's all.
Jeannie, do you have anything for the board today?
Thank you, Jim. I didn't pay him either. Just a couple of things. On the AB 109, the board will have to take action by August 1st, and there will be an item on your agenda on July the 26th to appoint the county entity to supervise the offenders post-release. So that's something that will be on the board's agenda. The governor did sign AB 29X, which is the fee for habitable structures with the CAL FIRE fee.
Rural county.
Right, and he instructed the Department of Finance to work with CAL FIRE on budget cleanup legislation. CAL FIRE is the one that is required to generate the list of the names and the addresses of the individuals who will be subject to the fee. The Board of Forestry is required to draft the regulations to create the fee in an emergency process, which is to be done by September 1, 2011. And the Board of Equalization, not the counties, would start collecting the fee for the 2011 and 12 fiscal year.
They have 30 days to do all that.
So they're going to get, I'm sure they're working as we speak.
September 1st.
Just a quick follow-up on that. I understand there's a lot of arguments that are being waged by different jurisdictions about places that are already included in fire districts that are paying a rather significant fee. So for instance, I think it was Folsom or one of the towns down sort of lower elevation was trying to opt out or actually managed to get out of it based on that argument. What about the foothill and mountain areas that have already assessed the parcel fee for fire services? What is
the... It's a statewide fee.
Yes, I understand it's a statewide fee, but...
Well, I think that's why they're recognizing the need for cleanup legislation.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't heard anything, but it has become. I mean, basically, the budget bill includes provisional language requiring CAL FIRE to convene a working group consisting of legislative staff, department executive staff, the Department of Finance, the LAO's office, and at least 2 fire chiefs to discuss options for future funding realignment and possible changes in the state's management of wildland firefighting. It also is to be guided by this working group for cleanup legislation to develop the recommendations to establish state responsibility area fee and address the relevant legal, programmatic, and implementation issues, all of which I'm sure are part and parcel to what you're raising. I think there's going to be a lot of work on this in this next month, and we'll see how it all shakes out.
I wouldn't hold a lot of hope on that, because this is for funding CAL FIRE, and if you're in a local district, you're still having the same CAL FIRE cost. Your local district costs don't offset the CAL FIRE costs. So the chances of that being addressed, I think, are rather remote.
It's clear the governor wants to realize the $50 million of general fund savings that are identified in the current budget bill, as well as looking towards ongoing $200 million in ongoing general fund savings for CAL FIRE's fire protection. So it's a big issue. I don't think it will go away. We'll hear more about this.
It says up to $150, so nobody knows what that means. I mean, is one residential structure going to be assessed less than another?
Yeah. I think these are all the details that have to get worked out.
Well, do you have any other idea how they're going to base it on? Because
They're just saying a unit.
Habitable
buildings and all
we haven't heard the last one out, but not far. We just stay tuned.
but not far.
But it says up to. It doesn't say habitable, every habitable unit will be $150.
And if there's a fire in a non-SRA area, they don't respond?
No, they always have back. They have, what do they call it?
I know, Tom, it's just that this is a night.
That's all I bring to your attention.
Very much so.
See them in court.
Yeah, that's enough of those.
Anything further?
No.
Jeannie, Diane, you have anything for the board today?
Just a reminder, there's no meeting next week.
When will our board agendas be prepared for the following week?
I don't know that answer.
Did you call Darren and tell him there wasn't one this week?
Yeah. That's good.
Can you call Darren?
We'll be here next week. Okay, anything further by the board? Any additional public comments? Seeing none, we'll stand We'll adjourn from the regular agenda, and we will reconvene in closed session, and we'll take a 5-minute recess in order to allow people to exit.